Ladies and gentlemen, we often speak of success, of goals, of achievements, but rarely do we pause to consider the state of our own inner world. Life is not conquered by force, nor is it mastered by endless striving. It is ordered only when we dare to bring harmony to the chaos within ourselves. To organize your life does not merely mean to arrange your schedule or tidy your surroundings, though these are important. It means to recognize the fragments of your being that remain scattered, to confront the contradictions you have buried, and to bring unity where there is division. If your mind is disordered, no plan, no ambition, no dream will ever truly flourish. Ask yourself, what parts of me do I neglect? What emotions have I silenced? What wounds remain hidden in the shadows? For life cannot be built upon repression. Whatever you push away will find its way back, not as a quiet guest, but as a storm. To organize your life is to allow every voice within you to be heard, to give even the darkness its place, and in doing so, to discover the deeper order that has always been waiting beneath the surface. True organization begins with self-knowledge. When you understand who you are, when you stop deceiving yourself with masks and roles, when you face both your weakness and your strength, you create a foundation upon which all else can be built. Without this, every success is fragile, every joy is temporary. Do not confuse organization with control. To organize your life is not to force it into rigid patterns, but to let each part of your being find its rightful place. It is the balance of reason and emotion, of action and reflection, of light and shadow. When these are arranged in harmony, you will no longer be torn by inner conflict, and life itself will begin to move with greater clarity. If you feel lost, begin simply. Order your thoughts, your habits, your relationships. Speak truth where you have been silent. Make peace with the past you avoid. Align your daily actions with the person you wish to become. Slowly, the inner fragments will gather, and the self will stand whole. Remember, no external achievement can replace inner order. Wealth, recognition, power, these are empty when built upon disorder. But when your life is organized from within, even the smallest action carries meaning, and even silence becomes full of life. So I say to you, focus not on chasing what is outside, but on bringing order to what is within. For once your inner life is organized, the outer world will follow, and only then will you discover not just success, but peace. We often make the mistake of chasing after things outside ourselves while leaving our inner world in disorder. People pursue wealth, recognition, careers, and relationships, believing these will bring them meaning and peace, yet they do so without ever pausing to look within. What they do not realize is that life cannot be mastered from the outside in. Without order in the inner world, every success gained externally feels hollow, every achievement fleeting. The foundation of all true success lies in the ability to bring harmony to the chaos within. Until this is done, nothing built upon it will last. The world has taught us to prioritize what can be seen, our possessions, our reputation, our accomplishments. But the deeper truth is that no external arrangement can compensate for internal confusion. If your mind is restless, if your heart is in conflict, if your thoughts are scattered and divided, then even the greatest achievement will feel incomplete. You may celebrate the outward form of success, but an unresolved voice inside you will whisper that something is missing. That is because inner disorder corrupts the meaning of external gain. Life cannot truly flourish if the roots are tangled. To focus on organizing your life is not to obsess over schedules or routines, though discipline has its place. It is about something more essential, creating order within your being. Imagine a house whose foundation is unstable. No matter how beautiful the walls, how grand the furniture, or how carefully arranged the rooms, the entire structure remains fragile. At the slightest disturbance, it risks collapse. Such is the state of a life pursued without inner order, outwardly impressive, inwardly unstable. We must not be deceived by appearances. The true measure of organization begins at the core of the self. There is a natural temptation to avoid the inner work because it feels difficult and uncertain. It is far easier to organize a desk than to confront the chaos of the mind, but what is avoided does not vanish. The ignored parts of ourselves remain active, shaping our choices, distorting our relationships, and clouding our goals. If we neglect them long enough, they emerge with greater force, demanding to be seen. Many people find themselves in crises not because they lacked opportunity, but because they built their lives upon disorganized inner foundations. The storm comes, and their carefully built towers fall. Inner order is achieved when you are willing to face the truth about yourself. It requires honesty. What do you fear? What unresolved pain are you carrying? What voices within you remain unheard? To bring order is to look directly at the fragments of the self that you would rather ignore. The emotions you repress, the desires you deny, the wounds you conceal, all these must be acknowledged. They do not disappear simply because you look away. Instead, they linger in the unconscious, influencing your actions from the shadows. The only way to move forward is to invite them into awareness, to give them a rightful place in your understanding of who you are. When you begin this work, a remarkable thing happens. The scattered parts of your inner world slowly gather into harmony. The tension between your desires and duties lessens. The conflict between what you show the world and what you truly feel begins to dissolve. You realize that life's difficulties cannot be eliminated, but they can be approached with a clearer mind and a steadier heart. This is what it means to build from the inside out. Once order is established within, the outer world follows with greater ease. Decisions become less clouded, relationships grow more authentic, and even challenges are faced with resilience. The path of organizing your inner life is not about perfection. It is not about erasing your flaws or silencing your doubts. Instead, it is about creating a balance where each part of you has its place. The strong and the weak, the light and the dark, the rational and the emotional, all are recognized as aspects of the whole. When denied, they create disorder. When accepted, they form harmony. Out of this acceptance comes a natural clarity. You no longer waste energy fighting yourself. You no longer seek external validation to fill the emptiness inside. Peace emerges not as an achievement, but as the natural result of inner alignment. External order becomes meaningful only when rooted in this deeper inner harmony. You can create routines, build careers, establish relationships, and achieve remarkable things, but if these are not grounded in a clear and ordered self, they will remain fragile. The moment you encounter loss or failure, they may crumble, leaving you disoriented. But when the foundation within is solid, even loss does not destroy you. You remain steady because your sense of meaning does not depend entirely on circumstances. You are no longer a prisoner of external fortune. This is why the greatest task of life is not to chase endlessly after what lies outside, but to first organize what lies within. When the inner life is brought into order, success gains meaning, joy becomes fuller, and even suffering acquires purpose. The external world reflects the state of the inner one. If your mind is clear, the path ahead appears clearer. If your heart is at peace, even small blessings feel abundant. The world has not changed, but the way you meet it has transformed. So focus not merely on arranging your days, but on arranging your being. Sit with your thoughts, bring awareness to your habits, Speak truth to yourself and face the parts of you that live in silence. For in doing this, you build a foundation that cannot be shaken. The storms of life may still come, but you will not collapse. You will remain rooted, steady, and whole. That is the true reward of organizing your life from within, the peace that no success can replace and no failure can destroy. To organize life means far more than keeping order in the outer world. It is a deeper, more demanding task, the integration of the self. Many imagine that life can be mastered by controlling circumstances, but they overlook the truth that the greatest disorder is not outside of us. It lies within. Hidden emotions, neglected wounds, repressed memories, and unacknowledged desires create an inner division that quietly shapes our choices. The fragments of the self that we push away do not vanish. They linger in the shadows, waiting for the moment when they can no longer be ignored. To organize your life in any meaningful way, you must be willing to gather these fragments and bring them into unity. Every person carries within them aspects of themselves they would rather not face. There are emotions considered inconvenient, impulses judged as shameful, memories too painful to revisit. We hide them, not only from others, but also from ourselves. Yet what we deny does not cease to exist. It works beneath the surface, influencing our behavior in ways we do not always understand. Anger becomes disguised as indifference. Fear appears as arrogance. Longing is buried under distraction. The disorganized self creates a life of contradiction, where what we say does not match what we feel, and what we do does not align with who we truly are. Integration begins the moment we turn inward and allow these hidden parts to be seen. To integrate does not mean to approve of every impulse or to indulge every desire. Rather, it means to acknowledge their existence and to understand their place in the whole of who we are. Without this recognition, the inner world remains at war with itself, and no amount of external order can resolve the conflict. The shadow we refuse to see will find expression in our lives, often in destructive ways. But when we face it, when we allow it to be part of our awareness, we take away its power to control us unconsciously. Imagine a symphony where only certain instruments are allowed to play while others are silenced. The music may continue, but it lacks depth, harmony, and richness. Such is the life of a person who refuses to integrate the neglected parts of themselves. They may function, they may appear composed, but inwardly something essential is missing. When integration occurs, the music changes. The silenced instruments return, and what was once fragmented becomes whole. The self is no longer divided against itself, but resonates with unity. This process requires courage. It is not easy to face what has been hidden. Many resist it, fearing what they might discover. But the truth is that wholeness cannot exist without the acceptance of every part. A life built on denial is fragile. One small event can cause the walls of repression to crack, and when they do, what emerges often overwhelms the unprepared. Far better to face the truth willingly than to be forced into confrontation by crisis. Integration is not about eliminating discomfort. It is about choosing to engage with it consciously, so that it may serve growth rather than destruction. There is wisdom in the darkness we avoid. The emotions we repress often carry messages we need to hear. Fear may reveal where courage is required. Anger may point to where boundaries have been violated. Sadness may remind us of what we have loved and lost, urging us to value what remains. By integrating these emotions instead of pushing them aside, we discover that they are not enemies but guides. They belong to the totality of our experience, and when placed in their rightful context, they enrich rather than diminish us. the integration of the self also deepens our relationships. When we are divided within, we project our unresolved conflicts onto others. We see in them what we refuse to see in ourselves. We blame them for traits that actually belong to us. But when we acknowledge and accept our own hidden aspects, we no longer need to project them outward. We become more authentic, more compassionate, and more capable of true connection. To organize life at its deepest level is not only a gift to ourselves but also to those around us, for it allows us to meet others without disguise or distortion. This work is ongoing. Integration is not a single act but a continual process of awareness. Each stage of life brings new challenges, new experiences, and with them, new aspects of the self that must be acknowledged. The task is never finished, but each step toward unity brings greater clarity and peace. The more we integrate, the less energy we waste on internal conflict, and the more energy we have to live fully in the present. A life that is integrated has a certain strength about it. It does not mean the absence of difficulty, but rather the presence of resilience. When we are whole, we are less shaken by external storms. Challenges come, but they do not divide us further, for we have already done the work of bringing the fragments together. We face difficulties with the knowledge that every part of us has a place, and because of this, we can endure with integrity. To focus on organizing your life, then, is to take seriously the responsibility of integration. It is not enough to manage tasks, schedules, or possessions while neglecting the disarray of the inner world. Without integration, external order is an illusion, a mask covering deeper confusion. But with integration, even if the outer life appears simple or modest, it carries a depth and richness that no amount of material success can replace. In the end, integration is not about becoming perfect, but about becoming whole. It is the recognition that you are not only the parts of yourself that you admire, but also the parts you fear, deny, or reject. To bring them together is to embrace the full reality of your existence. This wholeness is the true foundation of a meaningful life. When the fragments of the self are gathered, the inner chaos quiets, and the path forward becomes clear. Only then does life take on a deeper order, an order not imposed from outside but discovered within. Many people believe that to organize life means to control it completely, to shape every detail, to bend events and emotions to their will. They imagine that order comes through force, through rigid patterns, through the suppression of anything unpredictable. But control is not the same as order. To live in control is to live in tension, for life does not submit to our demands. It moves according to its own rhythm, often beyond what we can anticipate. The more we try to dominate it, the more it slips through our grasp. True organization is not control, it is balance. It is the art of letting each part of our being find its rightful place, so that life may flow in harmony rather than in resistance. Balance is not achieved by eliminating conflict, but by holding opposites together without tearing ourselves apart. Within each of us lies a tension between reason and emotion, between instinct and reflection, between action and stillness. Many try to silence one side in order to live only in the other, believing that by doing so, they will find peace. Yet the mind that denies emotion becomes cold and distant, while the heart that denies reason becomes reckless and blind. Both extremes lead to disorder. Balance, however, allows each part its voice. Reason provides structure, emotion gives depth. Together, they guide us into choices that are both wise and human. The same is true of action and reflection. A life lived only in action becomes exhausting, a restless pursuit with no time to understand why we are moving or where we are going. A life lived only in reflection becomes stagnant, trapped in thought, afraid to step into the unknown. But when action and reflection are balanced, movement gains meaning. We act with purpose because reflection has shown us the direction, and we reflect with clarity because action has given us experience. The two are not enemies, they are companions. Light and shadow form another polarity we must balance. It is natural to prefer what is bright, noble, and admirable in ourselves, while rejecting what is dark, hidden, or uncomfortable. Yet if we try to live only in the light, the shadow grows stronger in silence, waiting to erupt. To deny the shadow is to leave it uncontrolled, and sooner or later, it will disturb the life we have tried so carefully to construct. Balance requires that we acknowledge both. The light shows us what we strive to be, and the shadow reminds us of what we must never forget. Together, they form a whole. To live in balance is not to erase the shadow, but to know its place, to walk with it without being consumed by it. When balance replaces control, life begins to flow more naturally. We stop exhausting ourselves by trying to dominate every thought, every emotion, every circumstance. Instead, we learn to listen, to allow, to adjust. Just as a river finds its way not by fighting the stones, but by moving around them, so too do we find order not by breaking every obstacle, but by finding how it belongs in the larger flow of our existence. Balance transforms struggle into rhythm. It takes what once felt like conflict and reveals it as harmony in disguise. This balance does not happen automatically. It requires awareness. We must notice when we lean too heavily on one side, when we cling too tightly to control, when we silence parts of ourselves that need expression. Life often teaches balance through extremes. Exhaustion teaches the need for rest. Sorrow teaches the need for joy. Failure teaches the need for humility. But we need not wait for extremes to correct us. Through reflection and honesty, we can begin to recognize imbalance sooner, gently adjusting ourselves back toward harmony before life forces the lesson upon us. There is a deep freedom that comes with balance. Control imprisons us, chaining us to constant fear of losing our grip. But balance liberates us because it does not require that everything go our way. Instead, it gives us the strength to move gracefully with the way things unfold. When difficulties arise, balance keeps us from despair. When success comes, balance prevents arrogance. It allows us to remain steady, neither consumed by what we gain nor destroyed by what we lose. To organize life in this way is to see it not as a battlefield where parts of ourselves must conquer one another, but as a dialogue where each part contributes to the whole. Reason speaks and emotion answers. Action begins and reflection deepens it. Light shines and shadow gives it contrast. This is not control but conversation, not domination but integration. Balance is the quiet center that holds it all together. In time, you begin to realize that the search for balance is the search for peace. It is not peace as the absence of difficulty, but peace as the presence of harmony. Even in struggle, there is a sense of direction, because you know each part of yourself has a place. You no longer waste energy suppressing or denying. You no longer live in fear of what might emerge. Balance does not make life easy, but it makes it whole, and wholeness is where true peace resides. So when you focus on organizing your life, do not chase control. Do not exhaust yourself trying to manage every detail, silence every doubt, or force every outcome. Instead, seek balance. Allow the opposites within you to coexist, not as enemies but as partners. Learn to walk with both your strength and your weakness, your clarity and your confusion, your light and your shadow. When they find their place beside one another, you will discover a deeper order, an order that flows through you and into every corner of your life. And in that order, you will find the harmony that control could never give. Lasting order in life does not come from external structures, possessions, or routines, but from the deeper foundation of self-knowledge. Without knowing who you are, no amount of discipline, planning, or organization will create true stability. You may succeed outwardly, you may impress others with achievement and structure, but inside there will remain a quiet emptiness, a feeling that you are living someone else's life. The outer world may appear ordered, but the inner world remains fragmented. To organize life in a meaningful way, you must begin with the question that so many avoid: who am I? Self-knowledge is not a shallow exercise in labels or roles. It is not defined by what you do, what others call you, or what titles you carry. Those things are temporary, subject to change with time and circumstance. The deeper self is not so easily named. It lives beneath the surface, behind the masks you wear, beyond the roles you play. To know yourself is to confront not only your strengths, but also your limitations, not only your desires, but also your fears, not only your light, but also your shadow. Many avoid this confrontation because it feels uncomfortable, but without it, they build their lives upon illusions. The masks we wear are often necessary. We present ourselves in ways that society expects. We adapt to roles demanded by family, work, or culture. But problems arise when we begin to believe these masks are our true identity. If you mistake the role for the self, you lose touch with the deeper voice within you. You may spend years fulfilling expectations, meeting standards, and achieving goals, only to wake one day with the haunting realization that you do not know who you are outside of what you perform. This is why so many outwardly successful people feel inwardly restless and unfulfilled. They have organized their outer lives but neglected the deeper foundation of self-knowledge. To know yourself requires honesty. You must be willing to look at what you avoid. You must ask questions that pierce through your disguises. What do I truly value? What fears control me? What wounds still shape my choices? What desires do I deny out of fear of judgment? This is not easy work. The ego resists it, preferring comfort over truth. But without such questions, life remains on the surface, shallow and unanchored. When storms come, the shallow life is easily swept away. But the life rooted in self-knowledge stands firm, for it is built upon what is real, not upon what is borrowed. Self-knowledge also means recognizing contradictions within yourself. Human beings are not simple. They are complex and full of paradox. You may long for freedom yet cling to security, crave love yet fear intimacy, desire success yet sabotage yourself. To know yourself is not to eliminate these contradictions, but to become aware of them, to hold them in your consciousness without running from them. In this awareness, you find clarity. You begin to understand why you act as you do, why you feel torn between different impulses, why you repeat certain patterns. Awareness opens the possibility of change. Without it, you remain trapped in cycles you do not fully understand. This journey inward can feel lonely at times, for no one else can do it for you. Others may guide you, but only you can face your own truth. Yet, within this solitude lies great strength. The more you know yourself, the less you are shaken by the opinions and judgments of others. Their approval or disapproval may still affect you, but it no longer defines you. You no longer live as a reflection of others' expectations, but as an expression of your own truth. This is the foundation of freedom, the freedom to live authentically without being enslaved by roles or masks. When self-knowledge deepens, external organization becomes easier. You no longer chase after goals that do not belong to you. You no longer waste energy on ambitions that are borrowed from others. Instead, you begin to align your outer actions with your inner values. Your time, energy, and choices start to reflect the person you truly are, not the person you pretend to be. This alignment is the essence of organization. Life feels less chaotic because your inner and outer worlds move in harmony. Decisions come with greater clarity because you know which path belongs to you and which does not. The absence of self-knowledge, on the other hand, creates endless disorder. Without it, you live in contradiction, torn between what you want and what you think you should want. You follow paths that lead nowhere, fill your life with noise to avoid silence, and exhaust yourself trying to prove something to others. You may organize your calendar, your home, your career, but if the self remains unknown, all this organization is hollow. It is like arranging furniture in a house with no foundation. The moment pressure comes, the structure collapses. To know yourself is a lifelong task. Just when you think you understand, life changes and reveals new layers. Growth brings new challenges, new desires, new fears. The self is not a fixed object but a living process. Self-knowledge is therefore not about arriving at a final definition, but about remaining open to continual discovery. Each stage of life offers new opportunities to ask again, who am I now? What is true for me in this moment? In asking these questions again and again, you remain grounded in authenticity, and your life retains its inner order. The reward of self-knowledge is not perfection, but peace. You come to accept yourself as you are, with both your light and your shadow. You recognize your limits without shame and your strengths without arrogance. This acceptance does not make you passive. On the contrary, it gives you the courage to live more fully, because you no longer fear what you might discover about yourself. The known self, even with its imperfections, is a far stronger foundation than the unknown self that hides behind illusions. So when you think of organizing your life, remember that no external effort will last without this foundation. Begin with yourself. Turn inward. Listen to the quiet voice beneath the noise. Face what you fear, accept what you find, and let that truth guide the life you build. For only when the self is known can the outer life stand firm. Without self-knowledge, order is an illusion. With it, order becomes natural, steady, and unshakable. The work of organizing your life often feels overwhelming because we imagine it as one grand act, a complete transformation that must happen all at once. But life is never reorganized in a single moment. It changes step by step, through small, deliberate actions that slowly bring order to what was once scattered. If you feel lost, the first step is not to solve everything at once, but to begin with what is close at hand. Order your thoughts, your habits, your relationships. Speak the truths you have long avoided. Make peace with the past you resist. Align your daily actions with the person you wish to become. These are the beginnings of organization, the simple yet profound practices that lay the foundation for harmony. The first place to begin is with your thoughts. The mind, left unattended, can become a storm, filled with anxieties, judgments, and distractions that cloud perception. When your thoughts are in disorder, life itself feels chaotic, even if your external circumstances remain stable. To bring order to your thoughts is not to silence them completely, but to listen with awareness. Notice what patterns repeat, what fears dominate, what doubts hold you captive. By observing your thoughts, you loosen their grip. Awareness itself becomes a form of order. The mind that watches itself begins to distinguish between what is true and what is illusion, between what is essential and what is noise. Habits are another realm where small adjustments create great transformation. Much of life is lived not in great decisions but in daily patterns repeated again and again. When habits are unconscious, they pull you into cycles that weaken you, consuming your energy without giving anything back. But when you make habits conscious, you create a structure that strengthens rather than drains you. To rise at a chosen time, to nourish the body, to reflect in stillness, to work with focus, to rest without guilt. These are not dramatic acts, yet they shape the whole of your life. The organization of habits is the invisible architecture upon which greater change is built. Relationships too demand attention. Disorder often arises because we tolerate relationships that are misaligned with who we truly are. We avoid speaking the truth, we compromise our values, we surround ourselves with those who diminish us rather than strengthen us. To organize your life, you must also organize your relationships. This does not mean cutting people away in harshness, but it does mean choosing honesty. Speak the truths you have long hidden. Say what you mean, even if your voice shakes. Let others see the person you truly are, not the mask you have worn to keep peace. Some will not accept it, and they may drift away, but those who remain will do so with authenticity. A life filled with honest relationships is far more ordered than a life crowded with false ones. The past, too, must be addressed. Many carry unresolved experiences like heavy stones, weighing down every step they take. We imagine that avoiding the past will free us, but in reality, avoidance only binds us more tightly. The past we refuse to face continues to shape our choices in the present. To make peace with the past is not to erase it, but to accept it. It is to say, yes, this happened, it hurt me, it shaped me, but it does not define the whole of who I am. In facing the past, you remove its hidden power, and life begins to feel lighter, freer, more ordered. Perhaps the most important act of organization is alignment. Every day, countless small actions fill our hours, and many of them are chosen without thought. But if you begin to align your daily actions with your deeper values, life slowly gathers coherence. Ask yourself, does this action reflect the person I wish to become? Does it lead me closer to or farther from the life I seek? Even the smallest act, when aligned with your truth, strengthens the whole structure of your life. A day built on such alignment creates momentum, and soon order begins to replace disorder, not by force, but by consistency. The beauty of these practical steps is that they do not require perfection. You will fail, you will forget, you will fall back into old patterns. This is not disorder, it is simply part of the process. Organization is not about eliminating all mistakes, but about returning again and again to what matters. Each time you realign, each time you speak truth, each time you choose awareness, the foundation grows stronger. Over time, the fragments gather, and the scattered self begins to feel whole. There is a quiet power in beginning small. Many despair because they imagine change must come through some great event or revelation. But order is not built in a single stroke. It is built in steady layers. A clear thought leads to a conscious action. A conscious action becomes a habit. A habit shapes the way you live each day. Days shaped with intention create a life of harmony. The simple step of noticing your thoughts, of speaking truth, of acting with alignment may seem small in the moment, but in their repetition, they reorganize the entire course of your existence. Life becomes peaceful not when everything is perfect, but when the inner and outer worlds align. When your thoughts support your values, when your habits reflect your truth, when your relationships are built on honesty, when your past no longer chains you, when your actions are guided by meaning, you discover that life begins to flow. The chaos does not vanish entirely, but it no longer controls you. Order arises not as something forced, but as something natural, the result of living in truth, so do not wait for the perfect time to begin. Do not wait for life to settle before bringing order to yourself. Begin now, in the small and ordinary moments. Write down your thoughts, change a single habit, speak one truth, take one action aligned with who you wish to be. These steps are enough to start, for they gather power over time. The fragments of your life will slowly return to place, and what once felt broken will begin to form a whole. Organization begins not in the grand but in the small, and it is in these small acts of truth that a life of harmony is born. The true reward of organizing your life is not measured in material gain, recognition, or outward success. These things may come, and they may bring moments of satisfaction, but they do not endure. Their value fades, and their light does not reach the depths of the soul. The deeper gift of inner order is peace. When your life is organized from within, when the fragments of yourself have been gathered and placed into harmony, you discover a calmness that external achievements can never provide. Peace is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of wholeness. It is the stillness that arises when the inner and outer worlds are no longer at war. Without peace, success is fragile. You may have wealth, yet live in constant fear of losing it. You may have recognition, yet remain anxious about how others perceive you. You may achieve great goals, yet feel restless and dissatisfied. Disorder within corrupts even the most beautiful achievements, turning them into burdens rather than blessings. But with peace, even the simplest life feels abundant. A quiet walk, a conversation with a friend, a moment of stillness, all are filled with meaning because they are not overshadowed by inner conflict. Peace gives value to life in a way that success alone never can. This peace does not mean life becomes easy or free from struggle. Suffering remains, difficulties arise, losses come. But when your life is organized from within, suffering does not consume you, difficulty does not break you, and loss does not define you. You can endure because you are no longer fragmented. Your energy is not wasted on internal battles, and your heart is not divided against itself. The storm may rage outside, but inside, there is a center that remains steady. That is the gift of peace. It is not dependent on circumstances. It is rooted in the order of the soul. Many people seek peace in the wrong places. They believe it will come when they achieve enough, acquire enough, or control enough. They chase after it in possessions, in status, in the opinions of others. Yet the more they pursue, the more restless they become, for they are searching outside for something that can only be found within. Peace is not something you earn through external accomplishments. It is something you uncover when the self is aligned. It appears naturally when the noise of conflict has quieted, when the hidden parts of yourself have been acknowledged, when your actions reflect your truth. It is not given by the world. It is born from within. Peace also transforms the way you meet others. A disordered self projects its turmoil outward, creating conflict, suspicion, and division. But when you are at peace, you no longer demand that others carry your burdens or confirm your worth. You meet them with openness, without disguise, without constant need for validation. Relationships become freer, lighter, more authentic. You no longer cling out of fear, nor push away out of insecurity. Peace within becomes peace without, radiating into the world around you. It does not mean you avoid conflict entirely, but even in disagreement, you remain steady, guided not by fear but by clarity. When peace arises from inner order, time itself begins to feel different. In disorder, every moment feels rushed, every day consumed by urgency, every task haunted by the fear of not being enough. But in peace, even busy days carry a sense of spaciousness. You are not pulled in 1,000 directions because your actions are aligned with what matters most. You no longer waste energy fighting yourself, and so you move with greater ease. Life may remain full, but it no longer feels chaotic. Peace reshapes your experience of time, filling each moment with presence rather than distraction. The pursuit of peace is therefore not an escape from life, but a deeper immersion into it. When the inner world is disordered, you cannot truly experience life. You are always elsewhere, consumed by regret of the past or anxiety about the future. But when order brings peace, you awaken to the present. You notice details once overlooked. You feel gratitude for things once taken for granted. You live more fully in the moments that truly matter. Peace is not withdrawal, it is awareness. It allows you to see life as it is, without distortion, and to receive it with acceptance. This does not mean you stop striving or abandon ambition. Goals and achievements remain meaningful, but they no longer define your worth. They become expressions of your inner alignment rather than desperate attempts to fill a void. You work not from compulsion, but from clarity. You create not to prove yourself, but to share yourself. Success, when it arises, becomes a natural extension of your peace rather than a substitute for it. And if success does not come in the way the world defines it, you do not despair, because your life is already full. Peace frees you from the endless chase, allowing you to live with purpose without being enslaved by it. The deepest sign of peace is acceptance. You accept yourself with all your imperfections, your past with all its wounds, your present with all its uncertainties. This acceptance does not make you passive, it makes you strong. For when you stop fighting reality, you release the energy once wasted in resistance. You can then use that energy to live more fully, to love more deeply, to grow more authentically. Peace is not resignation, it is strength born of alignment. It allows you to meet life not with fear or denial, but with a quiet confidence that whatever comes, you remain whole. In the end, peace is the greatest form of organization. It is the order that cannot be shaken by change, the harmony that remains even in loss, the stability that endures when everything else falls away. Wealth can be lost, recognition can fade, control can slip, but peace, once rooted in the self, endures. It is the treasure that cannot be taken, the foundation that cannot be broken. To focus on organizing your life, therefore, is not only to seek success, but to seek peace. For once peace is found, success, in whatever form it comes, will carry meaning, and even failure will not destroy you. So do not measure your life only by what you achieve or acquire. Measure it by the presence of peace within you. For when the inner world is in harmony, you have already found the greatest success. That is the true reward of order, not the fleeting satisfaction of accomplishment, but the lasting strength of peace, the quiet wholeness that no circumstance can take away.